Hey guys, welcome back to the Zenith porthole model Monroe restoration project. When we last left off, did our first power up, got the set working more or less. We got a raster, we were able to tune in a test pattern. High voltage was a little finicky though. I would have to sometimes wait longer than I expected to, or had to tap or wiggle the horizontal output tubes a little bit. Well, since then, I went ahead with my plan from the start, which was to replace the flyback, because the original flyback was gone, and it had been replaced with this ugly looking thing. Well, I took the flyback out of my parts chassis, and it also looked miserable, but I stripped all the coating and paint thinner, and then I recoated it with polyurethane. It came out looking just like this guy from another set. And I just finished installing it. Now at first I didn't want to go in. Then I realized, oh, they didn't just replace the flyback, they replaced the width coil. And this was bumping into this. So I also took the width coil from the parts set. It's kind of hiding back there. You adjust it by sliding this thing back and forth. Also replaced the lead wire going to the horizontal output tubes up on top, and the high voltage rectifier. Yeah, there's no high voltage cage on this. 1B3 is just sitting out there in the open along the horizontal output tubes, so stay away from that area when the set is powered up. Do a little bit of cleaning down here, and well, let's give it a try. Good news, the transplanted flyback is a success. Still takes a little while for the high voltage to come up. I didn't replace all the resistors yet underneath these horizontal output tubes, but I did discover one of them was bad. It's this outer one. I just replaced it with a used one. Seems to be working a little better, but more importantly, yeah, transplanted flyback works just a treat. I've got it in porthole mode right now. This would be normal viewing mode. In this mode, they stretch the image to fill the screen vertically. Alrighty, let's take care of the dial cord next. This is my donor chassis that has an intact fine-tuning dial cord. Took some reference photos. Sure looks like it's pretty simple. We've got two ends up here with a spring on either end going into the pulley. Goes just straight down, double loop around the pulley down here, and then back up on the other side. So I should be able to undo it on one side and extricate it and transfer it to the other set. Interesting, do these cross over? Oh, I see it as a loop around this as well. Okay. So it goes once around and over and attaches there. Okay. Got that? Yeah. Peace. Alrighty, got it out, and I saw at the spring end they actually tied it together so it's just one loop. So how do you get it on when we've got a shaft going through here? Well, you can loosen this up. Just with some snub nose pliers, we can loosen these two up and slide this over, and then we have direct access straight through. We can loop it around the pulley, loop it around the other end. Nice little way to do it without having to undo this. Here's what I mean. You loosen these up and then pull on this fine-tuning shaft, and there we go, separates. Now we can put the dial cord through there, loop it around that. Greased this up earlier so it moves pretty easily. It's probably why I broke in the first place. This got all seized up and somebody went to turn to fine tuning and snapped it. Alright, perhaps my least favorite thing to do in these restoration projects, but I do believe we are good to go now. Alrighty, cleaned things up around the new Flyback, reinstalled the insulating plastic that runs around here, and put this bracket back on. And I proceeded to clean up my work on the horizontal output tubes, replaced all the resistors, and tidied up some of these caps I had tacked in earlier. And on the top side, I have some nice new wire running to the caps on the horizontal output tube and high voltage rectifier. Alright, I think it is about time to install the 16 EP4 metal cone CRT. If you recall, the one that came with this set was dead. It had gone to air. I miraculously found one at a garage sale, and that still had some life left. We're going to pop it into this chassis and fire it up for the first time. Hang on, before we get to that 16 EP4, let's finally check sound. So I've got a test speaker. Now, I've powered cycled this out a few times, and it still does take the high voltage a little longer than I'm used to kick in, but it does consistently, so I'm not too concerned about that. What I am concerned about, though, is the tuner. I really got to get in there and clean it. I've been using channel 6 for most of my testing, so that works, but I just tried channels 2, 3, 4, 5. Very difficult to get to come in. I have to keep rocking the channel selector back and forth, back and forth. You can see this is, even channel 6 is still pretty flaky too. This whole chassis was pretty filthy. I haven't cleaned the tuner contacts yet. I'm hoping that takes care of it. But there does seem to be some sound lurking in there. We have our fine-tuning dial string back in action. We can tune that in. It's a little noisy, but yes, we have sound. Alright, so it's basically working. I'm not going to get too hung up on that till I clean the tuner. We have a few controls on this. This uses that 6B and 6 kind of all-in-one FMD modulator tube, which has a peculiar control that goes with it as part of how the tube works. It's literally called a buzz control, which I think is that one. There's two wire wound pots up on top here. One of them is going to be for AGC, and the other one is for sound. Should be able to figure out very easily which is which by just giving it a little tweak. So it was a cool innovation. It's sort of it's a built-in limiter, discriminator, first audio amp all-in-one tube, and to align it, you generally just do it by ear. So tune in a station so you get a pretty good picture, and then tweak the control to get rid of the buzz. So buzz. No buzz, or almost no buzz. So, there we go. Yeah, there's still some background noise. That's for sure. Oh, that's considerably better, I think. Interesting, the gain increases when I put my hand over here. Of course, I'm doing this now before I put in that full-size metal cone CRT, in which case you got high voltage all around in here. And this is my favorite, this little control in here. You need to push it in, it's spring-loaded. That's how you tweak the channel oscillator slugs. Imagine doing that with about 16,000 volts an inch away from your hand. Not much fun. Again, I'm not going to get too hung up on that till I clean the tuner. But yeah, we're getting there. We're in pretty good shape. Just need to do all the usual stuff, let it run for a while, let the bugs settle out of it, and start tweaking the controls a bit. Actually, let's take care of all that. I mean, I'm really anxious to get that metal CRT installed, but I know once I do, making these adjustments is going to be far more difficult, so let's take care of everything now. Let's start by cleaning the tuner. To do that, They do have an access port on the side as memory serves. We can take this off. Take off, I think it's just 2 1/4-inch screws, and this whole side comes off. And you can get at all the stuff in there. I'll get out my deoxit and Q-tips and get after it. Imagine doing this on the field, doing some field servicing in a customer's home wouldn't have been the easiest thing. And I also noticed one section's missing. I think it was channel 4 I just could not get reception on. I wonder if that's the one that's missing. I can scavenge it from another set if it is. It's also, I have heard, possible to install a high frequency module in there and get a UHF station on this as well, which came online around 51, I believe. I was hoping these would be labeled as to what channel they are, because I'm not sure which of these is which. But anyways, there's little fingers here that stick out, brass fingers. That's what we need to clean. That's one side of it. The actual switch contacts are up under here. Not so easy to get at, but I'm thinking by Q-tipping some deoxit on this and then rotating it up in there and going back and forth, we can clean the contacts on both sides. Bizarre setup. There are some labels on here. It says C, D, D, nothing. But I was hoping to see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so I would know which is which. I guess I can kind of figure by seeing what's on it. So that's channel 12, which is locked in right now. And 2, and then 4. So now 4 is present. Which one is missing? 6, 3. Oh, it's blank on the dial here. Okay. So there's actually a blank position. I wonder if they were anticipating UHF, because this is one of the last generation of the porthole, round porthole chassis sets. They did rectangular sets with the same chassis for a little while, 51, 52. So that might be why that one is left blank with no label on the channel clunker. So I guess we're not missing one, that's just left open. Boy, that tuner was absolutely filthy. What I ended up doing was spraying some deoxit D5 into the cap and dipped a small brush into it and painted it lightly over the contacts, cleaned them off with Q-tips, did a couple passes. And while they were still damp, I rotated them through the switch housing up here, and that seemed to have really improved reception on all the channels. So let's finally move on to installing this. This is a replacement CRT that I plan to install. There are no markings on it. There was a label here, it's gone, but it came out of one of these chassis, so I'm sure it's compatible. The original has Z on it for Zenith. This does not, but I don't think it's a rebuild because I don't see any obvious seam on the neck here, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that. But we do need to install it. Now, I took a lot of reference photos. The basics of it are pretty simple. Because this from here to here goes right to the high voltage, that's why it has this clip on it instead of the usual snap-on connector that just hooks over the rim. But because this all has high voltage, there's some special mounting considerations, namely this. It's a big plexiglass or acrylic block here that rests on that. And then this part, which does not have high voltage, can go into the yoke as normal. And then we've got this big plastic rim around the front, and it attaches here, but that's not quite enough to hold this thing up, just 2 screws into plastic. So there is a bit of a contraption that hooks onto it. It came off, I took out the CRT, but I took a lot of reference photos, and I suggest you do too if you ever do this, because there are springs that attach on either side, and they go to the front and they hook on to this to provide some additional support. I'm not crazy about this mounting. I'll give you a look here. Well, because it's plastic, and plastic that's this old tends to warp and distort. But I do have several I scavenged from different sets. This one's a little bit different, but I'll try to pick one that's in the best condition. So this one just had a single point up top where a spring attached, but the style that came with this set. And secured with springs in a little bit different manner. I've got them around here somewhere. Yeah, here's part of it. So there's these pieces of metal, we've got some pieces of plastic, we've got springs on it. Hence the reference photos I took. But at least the basics of it, we put the neck through the yoke, we secure those 2 screws. It should get it stable enough I can then work on the spring connections. But before I do any of that, let's give this a good cleaning. Clean the picture tube up a bit and have it partially installed. The mounting plate down here secured, and on one side I have the spring installed to the front bezel, and I've got the high voltage lead connected, but I'm still searching around for the metal arm that goes on this side and connects up to that. A bit of spring fiberglass assembly here. I thought I had it because I found this, but I forgot that there's actually a 3rd bit that hooks here and loops around to the other one once I find it. However, it's enough for us to give it a try. I actually already went ahead and positioned the ion trap magnet enough that I got an image on the screen. So let me show you what I got. We've got some work to do because it's not coming even close to filling up the whole screen. Some of these I've seen where there's a plastic shroud that goes over the metal, which would protect you in case you're brushed up against it, but this does not. So yeah, I need to keep a few inches away from that surface at all times. So tell me about that slow high voltage startup time. So the audio's already kicked in, but still no image. But it will come up. And then it just works fine. So it seems like there's a tired horizontal oscillator. Anyways, there we go. There we go. And it's slowly filling in, so yeah, that often means there's a tired horizontal output tube. This has duals. I've swapped them both out a number of times. The tubes test great. Horizontal oscillator I've swapped out a few times, but I'll keep at it. I'll keep at it. And there's a damper too. I've gone through them all a few times, but anyways, there it is, and it is plenty bright, plenty bright. But this is what in the zoom position, and that's the normal position. So when I'm in this position, it should be filling the entire thing. Now, of course, there's a height control on the back we can adjust. I believe this does have horizontal and vertical centering controls, which we can use to get this over, but it's also stretched a bit on this side. So anyways, what the important thing is, yes, this picture tube most definitely has life left.